Welcome back to another episode of Growth Marketers Podcast. I'm Samuel Timothy.
And I'm Taylor Rowe. In today's episode, we dove into issues and limitations that we see in a lot of companies' search strategy, in their marketing strategy in general, when they're really just focused on primarily in-market buyers, right? So we talk about issues with demand, we talk about issues with competition, we talk about issues with search volume and how you can overcome them. And these are challenges that we see a lot of companies face, every day with companies that we work with, clients that we have ourselves. So hopefully you guys enjoy the episode. If you do, please give us a like, subscribe to the podcast so that you're in tune with future episodes. Let's jump right in.
All right, Taylor. So, everyone in the marketing world knows they have to do advertising. They have to leverage, content marketing, SEO, paid search, and things of that nature. That's not a foreign concept anymore. But what we do tend to see is how they try to photocopy the idea that may have worked at a company that has an established market, sufficient amount of demand. People are actively looking for their service or products. They've done Google Ads and they're just trying to adapt that same strategy at a different company and then saying, well, why isn't this working? So we see this happening on a consistent basis. So we want to tackle that topic of why that could be the root cause.
Absolutely. We see this all the time. And as you mentioned, what might work for one company, if you're a marketer at a company and then you have success and you go to another company, you kind of just try to carbon copy that strategy at your new company. And what we see is a big, misunderstanding or a big missed, opportunity is companies not truly understanding their market, right? And so if you think about when companies start to, invest into marketing, it's really because they're trying to generate sales, right? They're trying to generate revenue, and whatever their traditional sales channels or avenues that they've, done historically are not working, right? This is what we see with, companies, software companies. We see this in manufacturing space all the time, a lot in the B2B space where companies have created a new product or service or, branching into a new product category. And they say, well, we need to, create some marketing. We need to create some buzz around what we have to offer. So they understand that point, yet they try to use solutions that are typically best suited for more mature markets. And what I mean by that is you have to look at the existing demand, right? So search is always something that companies go to first because, they look at Google AdWords, they look at, they hear about things like performance marketing, and they want to look at, how much money did I spend? And then immediate gratification of how many leads did I generate and how many of those turned into. But if you don't have a ton of existing demand, right? If you look at your total addressable market, even if, you have an addressable market that understands your product and understands your solution, and there is existing demand, there's going to be a small percentage, 3 to 5% of that total addressable market that at any given point is actively in a buying cycle and actively online searching, right? So if that total addressable market is even smaller or the awareness is smaller, right? You might have a huge total addressable market, but the awareness about your product or solution is relatively small. No one's searching for it, right? So you can't go to market with your marketing strategy of let's, spend X amount of dollars on Google Ads and let's, optimize for search terms for bottom of the funnel because you've created a product or a solution that no one is actively searching for. So the first thing you have to do is really understand how mature your market is in the sense of the awareness of your solution, and then use tools, use SEMrush, use Ahrefs, use even Google search trends to look at how many people a month are actually searching for your solution. And if you come up with 10, 15, 20 keywords and each of them only has 10 searches a month, you can't expect to get 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 visitors a month because the search volume just isn't there. So what we want to talk about today is how can we combat that, right? What can we do if we've created this great product or we've created this great solution? We have a revolutionary way of doing business, and all we need is people to know about us, right? All we need is some awareness. So, Sam, what are some of the strategies that companies out there can implement if there isn't a ton of search volume for their product or service?
Yeah, I think the number one thing they need to understand is if they are coming with some sort of a revolutionary idea or a paradigm shift in the way have people have solved a business challenge, right? They need to start talking about that paradigm shift. I think one example that I can give is like, I don't know if anyone who's listening is aware of like Drift, which is a software company that provides conversational marketing tools. They kind of pioneered this whole concept of chatbots as a better way of communicating and engaging with a visitor that comes to the website. So they came up with this idea that said, hey, MQLs are dead, forms are dead, people like real-time conversations, you should consider doing chatbots. So they created an ebook. They even published a book, I think it's called MQLs Are Dead. So now you are teaching the market about this whole concept because nobody even knew the term conversational marketing. Nobody was actually going and Googling for that term. So if they were going to wait for Google ads to work, drive new customers, they're probably not going to see much progress. Right. But they had to come into market teaching the customers a new way to do something, right? They all knew they have to generate leads. It's not like nobody knew that, hey, I have websites, I have visitors, I need to convert them into leads. But they just telling them a new way to convert visitors, which was mostly through conversational marketing.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. I think Drift, again, when they first came out, if they would have leveraged that same playbook that maybe, some of their marketers had used in the past, you would have looked at, okay, let's spend money on Google keywords for AI chatbot and, chat conversion tools and live chat conversion tool, right? And all these search terms that, they weren't happening. I mean, people just weren't searching, and it would have been, a very, very slow climb to try to get customers at that rate, right? So they had to, rather than try to capture that existing demand that just simply didn't exist, they had to focus on creating awareness and demand. So, what you do there, what we're talking about, right? We talk about awareness, really goes hands in hand with education, right? If you look yourself in the mirror and you ask, well, what do we do? What do we need to do? You need to educate your market. You need to introduce them to a problem that maybe they didn't know they have, and then show them your solution and how it can benefit them, how it can help them, accomplish whatever goals that they're accomplishing, right? So how do we do that is, again, through educational content creation and distribution. Search can still be a viable option to promote that content, but you have to look at all the avenues of where our customers are and where they are consuming content. So yes, of course, people are going to Google, they're asking questions. Rather than just focusing on the bottom of the funnel, we have to look at top of the funnel research related keywords, right? If you use the same example of Drift, probably people searching about improving conversion rates, conversion rate optimization. Maybe people are searching about chatbots at that time, but certainly not, AI, chatbots and, removing forms. And like you said, MQL is dead. All those type of things people certainly were not searching for. So there's educational content around marketing, right? Sort of tangential topics that you can cover, because ultimately you understand who your persona is a marketer, is a digital marketer, somebody who does care about increasing the quality of leads, providing a better user experience on the website. You can provide a lot of content around other topics, right? How to improve your it could be anything related to digital marketing. How to, could have been content around Google AdWords and conversion rates, could have been content around organic search, could have been content around industry statistics for what conversion rates should be, could be content around sales and marketing alignment and how to improve that communication and that relationship between sales and marketing. All of those topics are related to that audience that you can use to attract visitors to the website that people might be searching for from a top of the funnel or middle of the funnel type search. The other thing you have to look at is, well, how do we actually not just rely on people going to Google and search? How do we reach our target market? How do we reach our personas through additional channels? So again, where are our customers consuming information? Well, I would assume that they're on social media. What platforms are they active on? I would assume that they're, looking at YouTube, watching videos on YouTube. I would also assume that they're, reading industry publications, right? What are the go-to websites, publications, newsletter subscriptions, directories, whatever that may be in your industry where you go to find information or find a vendor or whatever that may be. Traditional, efforts would be something like a trade show, right? Are there opportunities for you to get in front of your audience at a trade show? Maybe if you're in more of a manufacturing or industrial space, these are still very relevant opportunities. So you have to look at, okay, who are our customers? What do they care about? What's important to them? Where are they? And then what's going to be the most effective medium or format of that content in order to articulate your message, right? So we can't just rely on, again, the same, okay, well, we're going to search, so we're going to write a blog, or we're going to have a product page, or we're going to optimize our website for search. A blog could be great, but that depends on the topic that you're trying to cover, right? Maybe you need a podcast, maybe you need a video, maybe you need an infographic, maybe you need a series of clips, video clips, short video clips that creates some sort of a dialogue on social media, right? So in order for you to create that awareness, again, it just falls down to education. The mechanics are still the same. It's still content creation and distribution, but you can't simply rely on one channel, right? There's only a handful of companies, industries, that you could look at that say they're in that sweet spot of there's enough demand that we can just rely on bottom of the funnel search, but there's not too much competition that we can't compete, right? There's a sweet spot right there that there's enough demand that you're going to get the traffic if you just focus on one instance of people knowing exactly what they're searching for, going to Google, searching, and we can capture that demand, either paid search or organic search. But again, if there's too much competition in that space, you may not have the budget to compete with Google Ads, or you may not be able to take the necessary time that's required to compete with them organically because you're so far behind, or there's so many competitors. I mean, there's only 3 spots organically that are going to benefit you really when it comes to search. So if there's 50 competitors that are much bigger and much more sophisticated in terms of their marketing than you, that's an uphill battle as well. So if you're in that sweet spot, great. But for everybody else, we have to get creative, and we have to make sure that we're playing in every channel that our customer may be, and that we're aligning our marketing messaging and strategy with the way that our customers will actually make purchase decisions. And again, if your market isn't mature enough that there's a ton of search volume at that bottom of the funnel level, well, we have to start looking at top of the funnel, middle of the funnel. We have to look at other channels, like I mentioned, social media, email marketing, podcast, videos. And I understand that's a lot, right? Because it's not just one motion. We have a lot of different channels and a lot of different ways we have to create content, but that's the world that we live in today. So you need to adapt to this new medium, and it's there could be another platform that comes out tomorrow, right, that we have to learn and understand. And if it gains traction, we have to focus on how do we gain some visibility on that platform as well. So I would actually add to that, as we're talking, maybe not just if there's not enough demand. Like I said, if there's too much competition, you have to follow this same playbook, right? Because if you can't afford to compete with Google Ads, or you can't afford to wait 12, 18, 24 months to start reaping the benefits of bottom of the funnel SEO searches, or there's just too much competition to even try to differentiate yourself, you have to look at, well, how do we, as you mentioned, make a paradigm shift? How do we challenge the norm? Where are our customers? Where can we be active? And what can we do to separate ourselves from the pack?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of good points that you brought up. Obviously, if the search volume isn't there, then if you're putting all your eggs into this one basket of I'm going to win with Google Ads, just focus on bottom of funnel search term, then you're just not going to have enough inquiries coming in to help you reach your revenue targets. On the other extreme is like you have enough demand and there's also a lot of competition.
It's a commoditized
because of that
business, right?
Now you just don't have enough budget to compete with that the other competitors in the market.
Yeah.
It is a daunting task to create content for every different platform. But if you think about it, content really comes down into, just a couple of different formats, right? You have the videos, you have the static images, you have text, and then you have audio. So if you just focus on maybe just creating videos, they can easily be transcribed into transcribed into a blog post, and can be turned into audio only files. And then you can also trim them down to smaller posts. And you can also take just clips from it and then turn them into a small social post, right? So I think maybe just focus on one type of medium to create the content, then and then figuring out how to translate them into other formats, I think would be more efficient to tackle that content problem. One other thing that I would mention, I had a recent interaction with someone who just acquired an culture. They do cultural, I think like culture and diversity, inclusion, all these different topics. They train employees of multinational organizations, and that's what their business is. And they have like 25 different PhDs in their company. It's a pretty large organization. And they have a lot of industry insights. They've been around for 40 some years, and they have so much industry knowledge. So I was talking with the founder, and I was actually asking him, like I said, how do you guys reach the customers? She said, oh, well, we've been around for so long. Our former employees of a chief HR person would leave this one company and go to another company. She would take us with her to new company. So, and that's how we've grown year over year, 40%. I said, well, what else are you doing? You have so much insights. You said you've 40 years of insights, you have PhDs on staff. What kind of, industry stats or any sort of reports? She's like, yeah, we have a lot of information. Like, manufacturing companies with, 90% of the manufacturing companies are run by, 47-year-old white male or whatnot. She just gave me all these stats. I said, those are all insights that you can easily leverage to create content, because if people knew how are these organizations structured, what are some of the limitations, and how those organizations aren't really welcoming to people of minority or whatnot, right? All these different things that she was telling me about. I said, that's insight that you have, that you're holding to your chest, but you're not really sharing. I said, is any of this stuff public, and are you sharing any of this? No, we just share this information with our customers. So the problem is, a lot of companies think that insight is, so it's our trade secret, we don't want to disclose it, but those are the nuggets that you can possibly share to get people to kind of start seeing things in a different world, in a different way, and then kind of come to you as the expert to say, well, we have some of these issues that you address on your videos. Maybe you can help us solve this challenge in our organizations. So one of the things that I think people need to start to recognize is get out of this mindset, like we have to keep our trade secrets to ourselves. We don't want to share with the world all our ideas or what we do and what our unique way of solving business challenges. You got to get out of that mindset and be more open. And people like that genuine, open conversation and content that you create, that they can relate to and gravitate toward, and come to find you as a trustworthy advisor to solve whatever the challenge that they may have.
Ton of great points there. As we talked about earlier, with the company having to make, the positioning is a paradigm shift, right? Their messaging is a paradigm shift. As marketers, we also have to make a paradigm shift and mentally say, stop, in this scenario, right, that we're talking about, rather than say, well, how do we generate leads? We need to ask the question, how do we educate our market, right? Because if everything you're doing is just focusing on educating your market, exactly like you said, answering questions that they have, introducing solutions to problems that they have, that's going to be your marketing strategy, right? You're going to ask your question, well, how do we educate our market? Well, here's topics that we know that we need to cover. How do we explain this, right? As you start to try to, it's like the saying of like the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're trying to do, is you're going to answer your own questions by, well, how do we educate our market? I mean, it's going to become pretty obvious that creating a one-page brochure is not going to be the best way to educate your market, because you're going to quickly ask yourself, well, how are people going to find this, right? Are we going to be able to hand deliver this to everyone in our addressable market, right? And is this going to accurately articulate everything that we have to offer, right? If we had one shot at educating our market, would this be the best way to do it? And you're going to find that digital, of course, is the best way to do that at scale, because it's certainly a one-to-many approach. But you're going to look at different channels and different formats and different mediums for each of those topics, right? And as you mentioned, if that becomes overwhelming, well, then start with what you can control, right? And start with one medium, and if you can do it, something like what we're doing here is one channel, or one medium rather, that can be broken out and share into different channels, right? If you can create like a video that can then be chopped up into audio pieces, video pieces can be shared on social media, you leverage an email marketing. There's a lot of different channels just from one piece of content. So I think those are great points. And again, as marketers, we need to make that same paradigm shift and just understand, how do we educate our customers, our potential customers, rather than how do we just generate leads, especially, just trying to, muster and create, bottom of the funnel leads out of nowhere if there isn't that demand or that demand doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're all the whole focus you have is on in-market buyers, then you're limiting your ability to increase your market share, because it's all comes down to the demand. So you have to either find a way to create more demand, and that's usually comes through the form of education, or you better have a substantial amount of money to capture as much of the demand as out there. And you can complain about Google Ads being expensive at that stage.
Absolutely. Well, if you have questions around your industry, your product that you're trying to promote, and you're curious about whether or not there's enough demand that bottom of the funnel search is going to be a viable option for you, if you need to expand into some other channels and some other areas, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, please reach out to us. Let us know. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions, of course, free of charge, and we'd love to consult with you about your business. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend or a colleague, and tune in for our next episode.
Growth Marketers is brought to you by One IMS, helping you reach new heights through integrated marketing. One world, one web, one IMS.